What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Hazard Garage. I hope you can hear me. The car is very loud, but I wanted to talk about the 10 things that I absolutely love about my wide-body supercharged Miata that we bought for just $900. Now, this is going to be in no particular order. Now, the car obviously has come a long way since we got it. I mean, we got it with crash damage. You know, it had a busted fender, busted bumper. Wheels were tiny little 14-inch wheels, and we really turned it into something extraordinary with the wide body, how the wheels fill everything out. Paint job, I think, looks fantastic, especially for spray painting. The way the accents with the lip, the rear spoiler, the bikini top, the roll bar, it all turns up together. It really turns heads everywhere I go. Yeah, I just love how good it looks. The Supercharger Noises. Now, the Supercharger Noises are so good. Not only do I have this slight whistling sound during idle, so people know that this is not a stock Miata, I mean, it also makes these noises under boost. Woo! Yeah, I mean, it just sounds so good. You got a little bit of a blow off. You get that whistle, like I said. It just sounds so good. It's quick and it's nimble. I mean, the Miata already is a pretty good platform to build off of. This is what, a 2,200 pound car, short, tight wheelbase. I mean, it's quick to turn. It's pretty fast. I mean, it's not straight line speed fast, although you can make it that way. It's quick in the corners, and that's really when you have a lot of fun. And again, like, you know, throwing the supercharger on really gives it that straight line speed that you can really grow to appreciate. But I mean, there's other great things you can do to it too, is like putting on a turbo. I mean, there's some really, V8 swap maybe. There's some really cool stuff you can make. But overall, the platform, it's quick and it's nimble. Because the Miata is such a popular car, you have absolutely no problem finding parts for this car. Even after being 30 years old, the NA Miata especially, there's still so much aftermarket support for it. I had no problems finding new parts to buy for this car. And it also benefits in the used market as well, because these cars are so popular. There's a ton of used performance parts just floating around your classified section. And on top of that, because this car is so widely popular, there's just so many people out there that have a real extensive knowledge on this car. I mean, I would post on, you know, a Facebook group, you know, an issue that I had with a car, and immediately I would have 20 or so people, you know, helping me troubleshoot and helping me work through it. There is just so much data and knowledge for this car out there. I mean, things like alignment specs and you know, the type of coilovers that will go on this car, you know, the spring rates that would work with it, to the finest detail. There's just so much knowledge of this car out there that you're not working on it blind. And that is actually very invaluable when it comes to working on your car. This car, relatively to other cars out there, is very cheap to build. I mean, okay, prices of Miatas nowadays, they're getting up there, okay? I'm seeing some clapped out Miatas go for 3-4 grand. Ridiculous. I was lucky enough to find this car for $900, but I would say overall, I mean, despite, especially in certain areas, and despite the popularity and the rarity of these cars now because they're so old, it was relatively cheap to build. You know, if you watched my price breakdown video, you'll know that I built this car for about $12,000. And that's taking it from a tow yard abandoned piece of garbage to a wide-bodied supercharged track car. I mean, that's a pretty good deal. Now, speaking of cheap, not only is this car cheap to build, it's also pretty damn cheap to race. Because the Miata is so light, and because things like the wheels are so small, things like brakes and tires are really cheap on this car. I mean, a full-blown brake refresh cost me, what, 100 bucks, 200 bucks? Not to mention the tires being 15-inch wheels. I mean, the tires maybe like, these are sticky tires. These are competition grade tires, and they cost me what, like $500? And because it's so lightweight, you know, you're not burning through tires, you're not burning through brakes so quickly. You know, I've been in a couple of track-oriented Facebook groups, and you know, there's guys out there racing Camaros and Mustangs, you know, heavy, big cars running wide tires. And they're telling stories of, you know, lasting maybe a couple of track days before they got to replace all those things. I've taken this car to track 2 times now, and oh man, I feel like I could probably get through the entire year racing on the same set of brakes, on the same set of tires. Just because of how light and how small everything is, it doesn't cost a lot. And that's the main thing, because racing isn't cheap. I mean, you're paying a few $100s to race on a track. Add that on top of all the car costs, that shit starts to add up. But like I said, because the Miata is so easy on tires and brakes, that's just more money in my pocket. It's a fun car, and people love it. I mean, the Miata has its own cult following. It's a cute car, yeah. Maybe to the layman, it has a tendency to be, what, of a girly's car, but there is a real cult following on the Miata. I mean, people love these little things, and for good reason. They are fun cars. They do look good. And I just recently took this car to a Cars and Coffee, you know, cars filled with custom cars, filled with exotics and whatnot. And even this little spray painted Miata was getting looks. You know, people are walking up and talking to me and asking me questions about it because people like this car. It's a fun car, not only to drive as someone who owns it, but also for people that just like it. It's nice to have a little bit of attention sometimes. It's fairly easy to work on. Yes, I'm sure if you've been watching some of my videos, you know the frustration that I have with the Miata and some things that it's been, you know, how it's been designed. But overall, the car is pretty simple. I mean, yes, it's old, so there's not a lot of technology or computers or things I have to worry about. The car relatively is easy to work on. It's very simple, you know, it's Japanese, so things tend to make sense. It's small, it's not complicated. It really was a great car to be one of my first project cars to build because it's enough to get me out of my comfort zone, but easy enough that I can actually accomplish what I'm trying to do. I do not feel bad abusing the crap out of this thing. Now this might apply differently to some people. So building this Miata, it is essentially my track car or my weekend car. I don't drive this every day. I don't need this car to get me to work. And so I actually don't feel that bad abusing this car. I mean, yes, I bought it for the purpose of basically racing it and tracking it, and you know, it was cheap to build, so it's not like a financial, you know, loss to me in a large, I mean, it's a lot of money, but you know, it's not gonna bankrupt me or anything like that. But I do not feel bad abusing this and really pushing it to its limit. I mean, there was a track day where I was overheating and I was, you know, having misfires, especially since I put the supercharger on. You know, again, this is a 206,000 mile car and I'm taking it to the track. But I didn't really feel bad that it was, you know, if it blew up or anything, because I'm actually expecting that to happen in the near future. But because I don't have this fear of babying this car, I can really drive it and really enjoy this car to its limit. I mean, that really is something else. I mean, if you had a really expensive car and you're worried about its longevity, its resale value and all those things, you don't really get to experience the car to its fullest potential. But with the Miata, no problem. Now this last one is a big one. And probably one of the best things I love about the Miata, especially this one, is that I built it. When I first started this build, everything was completely new to me. I've never built a car before to this extent, you know, bolt-ons or whatnot in high school, but I've never really pushed myself out of my comfort zone to learn and to really get to know the car that I was working on. Not to mention, this car pushed me to get, you know, the garage, the warehouse space, and all the other friendships that I get to make along the way because of it. And again, this is something that I created, you know, like where it was when we first got it to where it is now, like this is something that I can step back and look at and be like, I made you. I did this. I never thought I would ever do something like this. And yes, it might seem small to some of those crazy mechanics and builders out there, but to me, a complete beginner, I never thought that this would be a thing. And that's what makes it my favorite thing about the Miata. It's mine, I did it. This is me. This Miata is me. Anyway, those are the 10 things I absolutely love about my Miata. I hope you enjoyed that quick video. Again, don't forget to subscribe for more build videos. And as always, thanks for watching.